Hello, and welcome to the Winchester Archive, a supernatural podcast. I'm Ed,
And I'm Brooke.
and today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 12, Fate. Here's a quick spoiler warning. As always, we are connecting dots throughout the entire series and talking about a lot of spoilers. So if this is your first time watching through Supernatural or have not finished the series yet, this is your warning. We will be spoiling a lot, so keep that in mind. And as always, as an explicit content warning, we are adults talking about an adult show that deals with dark and sensitive topics. So expect adult language, mature discussions, and some dark humor, as always.
Yes, and now let's get into our episode specs. So the air date for this episode was January 17th, 2006. This was written by Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker, directed by Alan Croker. The supporting cast is Julia Benz, who plays Layla, and she was actually on Buffy and Angel, and then like several other TV shows. So they got somebody kind of popular for her character.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. And then Kevin McNulty as Roy Lee Grange. And Kevin also shows up in season 10 as a different character.
That's wild to me that they can get away with stuff like that. Like, I never would have noticed that, but, like, it's crazy that they do that. Like, in the multiple times now we've said, like, "Oh, yeah, they come back as, like, a different character completely."
Yeah. It's also like in 10 years, are you really going to remember
Yeah.
seeing them? I
Also,
mean,
when you said the air date was 2006, I was like, "Holy crap, that's, like, 20 years ago." Like, "Oh,
close.
no."
Right. All right. So now for our synopsis of the episode. The first thing we see is the brothers rushing into an abandoned town and bursting into a house to save some children. Dean is fighting the monster and gets very badly injured. Sam takes him to a hospital where they find out Dean only has a few months to live. And in desperation, Sam takes Dean to a faith healer. The brothers find out that the faith healer is using nefarious magical spells to heal people while somebody else dies in their place. And with that said, you can listen to us on all major podcast platforms and watch along on YouTube. And if you want to support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/the Winchester Archives podcast. We have a lot of perks from our Discord community to digital art to bonus episodes. And I do just want to add in that there is a free tier to our Patreon. So you can go there and just like click free and you'll get the like free updates we give out. And the Discord community is open to everyone. I'll start putting the link in our description. You can join in there. Um, I think this will be very important because, as you know, or everybody knows, we aren't extremely consistent with posting every week. And that's because we have our own lives, health issues, um, work,
This year's been a year.
etc. Yes. And being up in our Discord server will really help you stay up to date with what we're doing. When we get people in there, we'll definitely be like posting more consistently about what's going on in our lives.
Yeah. And just in
Mhm.
general, wanna throw it in there too, we are, like, reassessing some things and they're gonna try to take the consistency a little more seriously with this too. We've both had sat down and talked about that, trying to be more of that weekly episode for you guys. But we appreciate your patience and sticking with us anyway when,
Mhm.
things have been kinda weird lately. Um, in addition to that, we are, working on our first archive addendum as well, so we should be getting that up here not too long from now. And then we have decided to switch up a little bit and like slow down on like the amount of podcast episodes we were trying to do. So like normally I do a plug here for our the supernatural life thing.
Field research?
Yeah, the field research episode. Thank you. I couldn't remember off the top of my head for some reason. Um, but because of things like that, me not being able to recall things off the top of my head like that, we are going to take a step back on that one for now. That is something that is in our radar that we do want to do it. It's just like amount of stuff on our plates right now, you know. We want to at least be consistent with the one before we worry about the others, you know.
You can
So
still definitely email us your
yes, please
stories.
still send us all your stories because we will definitely get those together. And when we are ready to launch those, we will definitely be doing that still. So please send those to winchesterarchivespodcast@gmail.com. if you'd like to. As well as on all of our socials on Instagram and on TikTok at Winch's Archives Pod. And if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, rate our things 5 stars, share the episodes, all the fun things, all the normal influencer things to help the algorithms feed off of our community more
Mhm.
and get more people into the archive.
All right, let's get
Housekeeping is out of the way. Check.
yeah, I know. We had a lot of housekeeping this week, but that's okay. All right,
Get into the
let's
play by play.
let's get into the fun stuff. All right. So the first thing I want to point out is the Netflix description is wrong for this episode. It says Dean was injured while fighting a demon, and he was actually fighting a rawhead, which is why last episode for our outro, I wrote, "We have an electrifyingly good time with a demon," because all I did was read that description. Like, I hadn't watched the episode yet when I
Mhm.
wrote that. So I got it wrong because Netflix has it wrong.
Uh, Fun fact on that though too, and I'm going to give kudos to the showrunners for this as well, because even the random cold open here that means nothing for the entire story outside of like setting us up for like Dean getting hurt, it actually has a lot of cool lore to it.
Hmm.
So when I first saw the raw head, I was like, that's a weird phrase. That
Mhm.
doesn't seem real, but it is. A raw head is actually a phrase that goes back to 1548, according to the Oxford Dictionary,
Jeez.
that references a description of a boogeyman type character, known as a bloody bones, or like it's usually like a bloody bones and raw head, like they usually go together. But there's some, and the funny fact is this Netflix technically got it right too, because sometimes it also refers to a water demon that
Oh,
haunts bodies of water in order to drag children in and kill them. Which
wow.
in this case is also fitting because the monster was stalking 2 kids in a flooded basement,
Mhm.
a body of water, which I was like, that's fascinating. Also, the like actual like the look of this thing does not look like any demon we ever see in this entire series
No.
ever. So I don't demon is still like a stretch, but the raw head is really interesting because it in the lore at least. Um, this is like a quote, entire quote. I just wanted to from the Somerset folklore,
Mhm.
talking about this by Bruce Tongue. That the raw head lived in a dark, quote unquote, lived in a dark cupboard, usually under the stairs. And if you were heroic enough to peek through the cracks of the stairs, you would glimpse a dreadful, crouching creature with blood running down his face, seated waiting on a pile of raw bones that belonged to children who told lies or said bad words. So if you peep through the keyhole or any other things like that, they'll get you anyway. Which is very fitting, I thought, because in this entire scene, in the opening scene here, Sam and Dean are rushing the kids up out of the basement, and as they are doing it, this is an old school basement stairs where it's just a plank of wood. There's those gaps, and what
Mhm.
happens is the raw head reaches through the gap and grabs Sam's leg and trips him, which is
Yes.
exactly what like this boogeyman would do. Like, you tell your kids, oh, the boogeyman will grab you by the leg and pull you out. Literally what he did. I was like, that's so good by the showrunners. I gave them a lot of credit when I learned all this about the raw head.
Yeah, and that is super creepy.
Yes, it's awful. And it's literally like that worst nightmare thing of you running up the stairs as a kid at nighttime. You turn the light off and
Mhm.
bolt up the stairs because you think that's going to happen. And then in the show, it actually happens. And it's like, oh, yeah, those things are awful.
I had no idea that that had a name because it's a very big, like,
Yeah.
movie trope and,
Yeah.
like, fear. My growing up, my grandparents had basement stairs like that, and,
Same.
we were always like, me and my cousins were always scared to go up and down them
Yep.
to a point where my grandpa actually filled in the back of it
Yeah.
with, like,
That's,
wood.
hey,
Um,
that's smart. Because also, it's one of those things where if you trip up those stairs because you step through the crack too much and your foot gets caught, then you'll like freak the fuck out even more because you're like, oh
mhm.
God, it actually got me.
Yes. I bet that's where that, like, folklore came from.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things again. It's like a boogeyman. Like more and more boogeymen these boys keep fighting.
Cool, now we know all about the raw head. I didn't know that
In
even
the
was a
first 3 seconds of the episode, already get a lore drop and like, yeah, it's crazy.
right? So, the first thing oh, well, I guess this is the second thing, 'cause I already said first thing, but this is the first thing about the episode I wanna point out, is this episode has the recap the last episode needed. Is the last Episode
Yeah.
10 or episode 11 did not have a recap after not being on TV for 2 months, and then this episode has one.
My guess is it had to have been just an ordering thing, like they shot these in a different intended them initially for a different order, or
Mhm.
they just, like, forgot on the last episode and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we should
Maybe.
probably do that and, like, do it on this episode." Like,
Could be. Who knows?
yeah.
Who knows? I couldn't find an answer to that. Maybe it's somewhere.
It amuses me though that, the recaps are becoming a running joke or a running talking point in in this series so far.
So, it's important to me. We have to watch them because some of them have cool music. Like, everybody always points out "Carry On My Wayward Son," but they also play, like, "Highway to Hell" and "Back in
Mhm,
Black," and, like, some of them are fun. So that's, like, what I watch them for, and I also like watching how ridiculous they are, like, the 2000s ridiculousness of it,
mhm.
of, like, the slow-mos, and they're, like, 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
So we've already talked a bit about this opening scene, but we're
Sorry.
gonna go through it again.
Spoilers for
Yes.
10 seconds from 10 seconds ago.
Okay. So we have the opening scene. The Impala is pulling into a seemingly abandoned town, and they're rushing to get something out of the trunk. And at first I questioned this. I was like, potentially stun guns? Because Sam asks what they're amped up to, and Dean says 100,000 volts. And Sam makes like a wow type of impression. And Dean says he wants whatever they're getting to be extra crispy, and
I mean, that's a fair point.
you only get 1 shot. However, I wanted to say I looked up, what, like, the voltage of a stun gun is, and I found out that 100,000 volts is actually, like, the optimal voltage for incapacitating without excessive harm.
Oh,
So
so not
100,000
extra
volt
crispy.
No, 100,000 volts is not impressive, and it won't get you extra crispy. It's just, like, what it should be.
Funny.
So, yes.
You can tell they are very familiar with stun guns and how they work.
Yes. They don't use them very often.
I mean, it also, like, could make sense for, like, the reason why Dean gets hurt then is because he's inexperienced with them.
Yeah, that's also true. They go down some cellar stairs, pointing their guns at a cabinet, and they're opening it up, waiting for the jump scare, and it's just 2 small children.
Gotta love the fake out jump scares.
Yes. The scene had really good tension
Now this opening
leading up to
sequence is
it.
really good. Like, this could have been an episode, I think.
It could have, because I thought I remembered this episode when I saw, like, the title, and then I got this opening, and I was like, "What? This is not what I thought it was, actually." And then it was what I thought it was. We still have no idea what they're even looking for at this point.
Mhm.
Sam is helping the kids out and going up the stairs, and whatever they're looking for grabs Sam's leg. Dean shoots off his stun gun and misses, so Sam throws his to Dean since he's trying to go outside.
Mhm.
We see the monster, and it looks very weird. It's, like, decaying and deformed.
It looks almost like a Power Rangers kind of villain where you're just like, "This thing is weird."
Yes. It's
Like,
like
it's
a
so bizarre
zombie.
looking. Yeah. Like some zombie demon creature thing, and apparently it's a rawhead.
Mhm. So, when Dean sees it, he shoots and hits it, but unfortunately, they're both standing in water and get electrocuted. Sam comes back down to find Dean laying unconscious in the water. First, I said, not sure if Sam should have, like, stepped through the water, but I did some research here and I found out Sam would have been okay.
Yeah.
The the stun at this point, the stun guns are made to leave, like, a quick charge, so water would make it spread quickly, like, the electricity spread very quickly, but after that, there wouldn't have been any sparks.
Yeah, there would be like a grounding of all the electricity that went through both of them very
Mhm,
rapidly, and then now that the stun gun's no longer being pressed because Dean's unconscious, that
mhm.
there'd be no live spark in there or live charge in there, so, yeah.
Yeah, and At most, Sam may have gotten, like, a little spark, but it wouldn't have been anything
Yeah.
as bad as, like, what Dean got.
No. Dean got the full brunt of that
Yes.
with the monster.
So, we have a jump skip a little bit. We don't
Real
get to
quick, before we go to the next scene, one thing that I thought about too is like, what did they do with the monster?
I think it just kinda died.
Like it dies to electricity and they just left the body in the basement?
Yeah, I assume that's what happened because, like, this is where the time jump happens because we don't see what Sam does. We don't get to see Sam carry Dean's unconscious body out of the basement. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, that was probably hard.
Mhm.
And
Presumably, they probably just lit him up because that's what they do. They burn everybody, so they probably just burned him.
yeah, like Sam did that all on his own, maybe.
Or Sam came or Dean came too and just helped out what he could.
Oh, that's true.
Either way, go ahead. Next scene. That was just some random thought that I had while watching the episode. I'm like, I wonder what they did with the actual thing. Did like the electricity just kill it?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
But now we see them at the hospital. Oh, we see Sam at a hospital, and the
Mhm.
nurse is asking for health insurance. And this woman asking for the health insurance, she actually does come back later in season 1 as a different character.
Huh.
And then again in seasons 9 and 10 as other people.
Amazing. I love that.
So Sam does hand her a card for a Mr. Berkowitz. And now the cops are here asking him questions about the kids.
Insurance fraud.
And Sam says they were driving through the neighborhood with the windows down and they heard screaming. So they ran inside and found the kids in the basement. And because God is writing this story, the cop believes them and Sam just leaves to go talk to
Mhm.
a doctor.
Hey, sometimes for the sake of the plot, you just got to move it along.
We are told, or Sam is told, that Dean is alive and resting, but he did have a heart attack caused by the electrocution.
Mhm.
Doctor said his heart is too damaged to repair, and he maybe has 2 weeks to a month to live. And my side note is, what is Chuck doing? What is he doing?
God works in mysterious ways. Realistically, we find out soon what he's planning on doing, what he's trying to do at least.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Trying
true.
to get Sam and Dean on his side.
They are, well, he is. I was gonna say they are, but the boys are not. That Chuck is trying to
No,
do that.
yeah, trying to convince them.
So we see Dean, and he's very beat up and sad and trying to really avoid the conversation. Dean tells Sam he better take care of his car or he'll haunt his ass.
Which is perfect.
Sam is very insistent that there are options, but Dean is saying there isn't and how this is a dangerous job and it happens.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Dean says, I know it's not easy, but I'm going to die and you can't stop it. And Sam says, watch me.
Mhm.
To which I say, this is the beginning of the cycle of them dying and coming back to life for each other for the next 20 years.
Yup. This is a very commonly recurring trope in this entire series. Is one of them is like on the verge of death or is dead, and the other one's like, I will not rest until you're not.
Yes,
And it's just that forever until finally it's not.
yes. And I think I have more notes on that later. Well, I have other thoughts on that, but it'll come later in the episode.
Yeah.
So now Sam is at a motel and he calls John to tell him Dean is in the hospital, but of course, John doesn't answer. So Sam leaves a voicemail.
Mhm.
And something interesting I noticed here was at first, when Sam is leaving the voicemail, he sounds really sad and anxious. But by the end of the voicemail, he just sounds bitter and resentful.
Yeah.
Like, it's like John's not there and he's just assuming they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where like it makes total sense. Like, and I didn't notice it at first when I rewatched it again after I read your notes about it. I was like, yeah, it really is like you can tell he's like hurt and then he's like pissed.
Hmm.
Because also, yeah, like John should be here, especially now. Like he like seemingly knows everything and what they're doing. Like,
Hmm.
but you're not calling or doing anything when their kid's like dying.
It's so frustrating. I hate
Hmm.
this man.
Fucking John, the worst.
So now Sam hears a knock at the door and he opens it, and it's Gene. Dean checked himself out of the hospital. It's been 3 days, and suddenly Dean no longer has bruises anywhere. He's
Mhm.
But Dean says he didn't wanna die in a hospital where the nurses aren't even hot.
Sounds about right for Dean.
Mhm.
Trying to make light of every situation.
Yes. He can't confront his thoughts. Sam says he's been looking for anything over the past 3 days, which means it took him 3 days to get the courage to even call John.
Sounds about right.
Unless he called before,
Unless
but
he
I
called
don't
every
know.
day. But
Yes, but I don't think he'd leave that voicemail every day.
yeah.
But then he says a guy named Joshua from John's journal says he knows a specialist in Nebraska.
A
And
lead.
mhm, Dean says, "You're not going to let me die in peace, are you?" To which Sam says, "I'm not going to let you die, period." So now they're in Nebraska. They pulled up to a tent, literally in a field in the middle of nowhere. A tent.
Yep. It's very dreary out.
Yes, it is. It's
Very, like,
raining a lot.
muddy and dreary. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, I know it's awful. We are shown a bunch of, like, older disabled people walking in, and they're all going to the Church of Royal France Faith Healer. Dean is very upset by this. I thought a very funny line happened, though. He says, "I can't believe you brought me to some guy who heals people out of a tent."
I mean, yeah. It
There
seems so sketchy.
It's so valid. I actually thought of you saying that to, like, me.
Mhm. To some dude out of a tent.
Yes. So at this point, they're like kind of arguing about good versus evil. And Dean says he sees what evil does to good people. So he can't believe in the church.
Amen, my brother.
And some cute girl walks by and says God works in mysterious ways. And then Dean gets more chipper and he says, "Yeah, he does." Which I noted, I know Chuck's plan now, as you
Yeah.
said, is to get them on his side.
Yeah, it's to be like, "Hey, I can help. God's great.
Mhm.
He works in mysterious ways, but he's great."
And then Dean says peace, love, and trust all over. It's like, "Okay." And then the camera pans over to a camera hanging up in the tent. So they have electricity out in this tent.
Semi-permanent tent, I guess.
There's also lights in the tent, so it's not just a tent,
Mhm.
apparently. Dean wants to sit in the back, but Sam pulls him up front. In this very packed tent, there are conveniently 2 seats right in the front for them.
Yeah, God's not even trying with the plot armor in this episode, and God's just like, "Hey, we're gonna be very direct here."
Yes. Here we also can see a prayer painted on the side of the tent. It claims to be Jeremiah 30:17, but it is incorrect.
Oh,
I didn't write down what it says, and I did not write down what the real thing is, but I'm gonna believe this. I saw this on the wiki that it's wrong, and that's just so interesting to me because 'cause I'm like, "You can get that right." Like, whoever was painting this set, I'm just like, You can get it correct, so why is it wrong?"
apparently Jeremiah 30:17 in the Bible says, "But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord, because you are called an outcast Zion for whom no one cares." Which would make sense in the context of this.
Are you looking up what it says in the show?
I can. It says the actual quote, "For I will restore you to health and I will heal your wounds," which is, like, close.
Hmm.
It's just not the full quote, it's just a paraphrase of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's just paraphrased then, it's not
Yeah.
completely wrong. So the pastor is talking, and he says, "The Lord does the healing here, the Lord who guides me in choosing who to heal and into their hearts." And Dean said, "Yeah, and into their wallets." And the pastor hears Dean say this and says blind people have really sharp hearing and
Mhm,
asks him for his name. Then he invites Dean up on the stage, and Dean says it's okay, he can pick someone else.
mhm.
And the pastor is saying the Lord picked him. And then I say, "Chuck, why are you doing this to Dean?"
'Cause he has to get him to believe.
He could believe without this, maybe.
As, someone who studied the Bible and just in general with this stuff, like, uh, God, tends to be very convoluted in his everything.
I feel like
So,
all of them are. All of the gods are.
yeah, but Chuck in particular is, like in, like, the Christian God and mythology is, like, yeah, it is very much likes
That's
to go
fair.
roundabout ways.
So Dean says he's not a believer, and the pastor says that he will be.
You
Then
will
they
be a
start a
believer.
prayer over Dean, and Dean falls to the ground and goes unconscious. And then he gasps back to life, and he sees a sketchy old man looking spirit thing behind the
Mhm.
pastor.
Creepy as hell. But yeah, makes total sense. Uh, Generally outside of this is, like, kinda just, like, a side that I wanted to talk about, like, the faith healing thing. Uh 'Cause, especially with Dean mentioning, like, going into their wallets and stuff, it's because, like, generally outside of the sketching looking spirit that we just talked about,
Mhm,
this this tends to be kinda what faith healing is without, like, the sudden gasp of "I'm fully healed," of all my issues. Um, Basically, a faith healer of, like, a Christian faith healer would do, like, a big old sermon where they call upon those that are afflicted by things and praise over them, and then they're all better. It's a very common thing, and especially, like, in evangelical, like, the, like, mega churches and stuff, like, the ones that
mhm,
are actually scams, uh, are basically that, where it's like you have someone who is in a wheelchair who is not actually wheelchair bound, and then you pray over them, and then they can walk, and it's like, "Oh my god, the miracle of God," and then everyone donates to the church, you know? That's
mhm.
that's why Dean immediately goes to, "Oh, and into their wallet," because it's a very common scam to do this kinda stuff to get to people who actually are afflicted into giving you money in the hopes that they'll be saved too or healed too, which is, like, really fucked up. But this is also a common thing in Christian myth and and folklore are in general, like the healing with energy or healing with faith, those kind of things. But in Christian myth specifically, there's a long tradition of saints and especially like even like Jesus performing miracles of like curing people, such as like Jesus healing the blind by putting mud on their eyes or healing people of leprosy. And these types of miracles are a big part of the Christian tradition. So that was why, and then it got co opted into by scam artists, like trying to make a quick buck. In this
Mhm,
case, though, like the faith healing is actually real. Granted, it's not using God's power, but
mhm.
as we find out shortly. But yeah, that's why this kind of thing looks really sketchy, is because it is in terms of in history, it tends to be a common scam thing,
Yeah, that's
especially
actually
random people on the side of the road in tents. Like that's very this scam.
I don't for some reason, I feel like I might trust that more than
It has a lot of history in like carnival style like
mhm.
scams, so
Yeah.
that's why it's like makes sense why he's hesitant at first.
For sure. It reminds me like, that description reminded me a lot of the TV show Midnight Mass. Do you remember that
Yeah.
one?
Hmm.
Yeah, wherever like, everybody kept going back because actual healing was happen. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say the twist because it's a spoiler in case
Yeah.
anybody hasn't watched it, but it's very, like, similar to
Hmm.
this whole thing. Dean did all of that stuff. He went back to the hospital and the doctor said there's no sign he even had any heart problem. And since he's so young, he shouldn't have any. But then she says a young guy like him, who was 27 and athletic, did have a heart attack out of nowhere. Dean is insisting at this point that this is not a coincidence. And he like just can't let it go.
Hmm.
He knows he saw someone. Sam says he would have seen it too because of, he sees stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, it is. Dean calls him a psychic wonder and tells him to he says, have some faith in me.
Hmm. I love it.
And he says he's been hunting long enough to trust this.
Yeah, trust his gut.
Yeah. So now they're at Roy's house. Dean says he's trying to make sense of it all and he asks Roy when he started healing. And Roy says one day he woke up blind and was told it was cancer and he was dying soon. He says they kept praying for a miracle and he went into a coma. And when he woke up, the cancer was completely gone. And then he had the power to heal people.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's very convincing
Or
too.
convenient if you think he's a scam artist still, like,
Yeah.
from their perspective, trying to, like, figure it all out, it's like, "Okay,
And then also, why wasn't your blindness healed?
serious ways and God, etcetera, etcetera."
Dean does ask him, like, why me? And the pastor says the Lord guided him to Dean and says he saw in his heart a young man with a purpose, a job to do, and it's
Dun,
not
dun,
finished.
dun. He said the thing.
Yes. I put this in the notes. It ties back to the first episode when
Mhm.
Sam says, "We have a job to do," after Jess dies.
Yeah, and it's very it makes a lot of sense in terms of looking at it through, like, as this, like, being a story of, like, the Christian God like this too,
Mhm,
because, like, that's the kind of thing that you would be like, "Oh, a synchronicity," like, the thing you look out for, like, "Oh, that's a weird turn of phrase that you happen to say," like, and also
mhm,
it's, like, God basically pointing out clues and hints to them like, "Hey, you're on the right path," or, "I'm not
mhm.
done with you yet."
Yes, exactly. I really liked that. So Sam is now talking with a friend of the guy who had a heart attack. He was running when it happened and said he felt a zap, and the clock in the gym is frozen at the time Marshall, that's his name, died at 4:17 PM. The cute girl Dean met earlier, her name is Layla. She and her mom have been to every service trying to cure Layla's brain tumor, and Roy never picks them. Layla's mom is very clearly upset and lashing out at the wrong people
Yeah.
as she looks at Dean right in the eyes and says, "Why do you deserve to live over my daughter?"
Yeah, that's a good question to ask, good point, and also, like, an understandable question from someone who is hurting very
Mhm,
much, because that's something you'd have to grapple with too, like, that'd be a hard thing to try to grapple with of, like, why is everyone else getting picked over her? Like, why are they better than her? Why are they, like, more
mhm.
important? And it's just like, yeah, that's a fucking shitty pill to swallow.
Yeah, it definitely is. The Layla keeps telling her mom it's okay, but her mom insists that it's not. And this is what I said earlier that I wanted to get to talk about later in the episode. It's just this whole thing has been making me think about like how others want to keep us around for them and not for us. Like now we've seen two instances, Dean and Layla, of somebody dying and saying they're okay with it, and their family members saying it's not okay.
Mhm, and making them do something to try to save them.
Yes. So it's an interesting, philosophical thought of your own bodily autonomy, and, like,
Mhm.
how do you get to pick when you die?
Yeah, some dark stuff to think about.
Yeah, like, it is dark, but it's also, like, a part of life.
Yeah. No, it is something that everyone's gonna have to ponder at some point.
Yeah, I just I don't know, it's making me just think, like, if somebody is insistent that they're okay and it is their time to go, then, like, at that point, if you're still searching for a cure, you're doing it for yourself. And also just talking in the context of, like, this TV show, Sam literally said that to Dean.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, "You're not gonna die,
I
period."
mean, I
Like,
don't blame them either, though.
no, I don't.
It's an understandable response.
Mhm. You want your loved one we all want our loved ones around for as long as possible.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's hard to grapple with, and this whole episode makes you think that because this
Yeah.
isn't the only time that's brought up.
Mhm.
So, now the brothers meet up again, and Dean asks Sam what he found out.
Mhm.
Sam immediately says he is sorry, and he found out Marshall died at 4:17 PM, which is the exact time Dean was healed.
And also, it's, like, the first time, like, one of them actually, gets they actually start actually apologizing to each other, be like, "I was
Mhm.
wrong," and it's like, "Oh, this is a breakthrough moment."
Yes, that's really good for them. They need this. Sam said he checked the local obits, and every time Roy has healed someone, someone else has died at the same time by the same thing.
Dun, dun, dun. Putting the piece together.
Yes. Dean is very upset that someone died instead of him.
Mhm. Understandably so.
Dean says he knows Roy isn't killing people, it's that strange man he saw on stage.
Fair assumption.
And now he says that man is a Reaper. Then we see the Reaper killing someone just as Roy is healing an older woman who no longer now needs an oxygen tank. And the Reaper is killing a female jogger. And I do want to say when this aired on TV, the music playing was Don't Fear the Reaper. And I'm actually
Mhm.
really sad we do not get that on the Netflix
Yeah.
edition. It is on the DVDs though.
Yeah. Because like, on Netflix, it was just, like, a random either music or, like, a noise, it wasn't, like, anything relevant.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. And I
Yeah.
write these notes in real time as I'm
Yeah.
watching, and yeah, I didn't remember.
And it's interesting because, like, now that they brought up Reapers, I'm gonna jump into that a little bit. Reapers are interesting because they generally aren't like what they are depicted in Supernatural from what I could find and, like, from my own knowledge. There's a bunch of Reapers in folklore, like, similar style of figures, but generally they're a singular god of death or a singular god or being that is a psychopomp,
Mm,
which is a spirit that is more of a guide of souls that have died into the afterlife rather than something that causes someone to die. Like, they're there to
mm,
ferry the spirit to the afterlife afterward, after they pass, not the one there to, like, cause the death and
mhm,
then take their soul or whatever. Supernatural, there's, like, reapers as are basically a subsect of, like, angels almost, or a subsect of spirits that go around everywhere collecting things rather than one being that does it.
mhm,
So it's, like, slightly different in that sense, and then there's, like, the main death, right? That comes up later,
mhm,
the horseman death. But yeah, and it's also very common for, like, the figure of death to be depicted as, like, a skeletal figure. Like, basically all around the world, like, they have depictions of these skeletal figures that are representations of, like, a guide to death, like, in pretty much every continent, which is
mhm,
fascinating to me. But yeah, I think they got the look well for, like, someone that's more, like, human-like in the shows. They tend to, like, look kind of more frail, like, the makeup on this guy make them look creepy and, like, look more, like, sunken in, which is, like, that's the point, right? He's supposed to look like this, like,
mhm,
figure of death. Yeah, I just thought it was fascinating how, like, they do that's, like, the one of the things in Supernatural that they do fairly differently from most folklore.
mhm.
Are
That's true.
very, like, consistent, and it's just like, this is, like, the one thing that, like, kinda twist their own way almost.
Mhm.
Granted, they twist all of it, but you get my point.
Yes, I do. And, like, this is if I remember correctly, because I didn't write it down, this is the only time we see a Reaper look like that. Like, in going forward, when we see them again, they don't have, like, that makeup.
Yeah, they look just like people.
Yeah,
Kinda like angels and demons eventually, except for, like, the eye flick, right? You can't tell it's a demon until the eyes change to black.
yeah. And at this point, Dean says it's not the Reaper, but a Reaper. So it's not like the Grim Reaper, it's
Yeah.
just a Reaper out there. And he says reapers are across cultures and it's possible there's more than one of them. He says reapers stop time and you can only see them when they're coming after you.
Real
Sam.
quick, on that point too, the stopping time thing I haven't really heard,
Mhm.
anywhere that I could see, but the whole only you can see them when they're coming after you is like more of a real thing. That,
Mhm.
you tend to not be able to see these in most folklores, you're not able to see the figure of death or the guide to death unless you are the one they are coming for, right? The one they are coming to help, which is like
Mhm.
that's neat.
And that's how like hellhounds are
Yeah,
too. And then Sam points out a cross in the church that's on the death tarot card. So they equate Roy to using dark magic on the Reaper to keep them there. And just as an aside, this is dark magic is a very outdated term. You just have to remember that this was made in 2006. But nowadays, we know not to use that. Sam is saying they can't kill Roy, and Dean replies with, "Well, you can't kill death. So if they have to kill something, it has to be
mhm.
Roy." But what's actually really funny is in season 10, Dean does kill death.
Yep. Fair, that was with, like, some ancient magical weapon, but still, he does indeed
Yes.
kill death. And going back to, like, what they were saying too with, like, it's one of those it's a common, Christian trope as well of, like, tarot cards equal, you know, evil magic, and it's like, well, not really at all, they're just a deck of cards.
Hmm.
So, like, that's another misnomer, but it's funny that they did that. And the cross they're referring to, I actually looked into this a little bit because it's an interesting looking cross, which is like essentially looks like an ankh with a cross in the circle part of the ankh. So like a
Hmm.
circle on a cross, basically, with a cross in the middle of the circle too. It's known as a crux ansata, which means handled cross,
Hmm.
and was used during the fourth and fifth centuries during the Christianization of Egypt, and it was kind of like a way to carry over the use of the ankh in Egyptian culture into the new Christianized Roman Empire, with the earliest known examples being from the Gospel of Judas in the third or fourth century. So it's definitely a Christian symbol, and it represents like the life to come or the afterlife. So it is like a death related symbol.
Wow, well, that's cool.
Again, the folklore, the people who write these stories, the showrunners of the show, they do their research, I think, pretty well.
Well, Sarah Gamble is one who wrote this episode, and she takes over after Eric Kripke leaves. Like after season 5, I think she's like the main writer, so it
Neat.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So the boys then here, they compromise on breaking the spell because they're not killing
Mhm.
Roy and they can't kill Death, so they have
Yeah.
to break the spell. Sam is going into Roy's house to look for a spell book of some kind and sneaks through a conveniently open window.
Always the conveniently open window for these boys.
Yes, always. And it's always right in the room they need it to be in.
I know. It's like God's writing a story for these guys, giving them a ton of plot armor.
Yes. So Roy just so happens to have a bookshelf full of very old, mysterious books, with just one of them that doesn't have dust by it,
Convenient.
meaning he uses that one,
Yeah.
except Roy is blind, so somebody else uses it.
Mhm.
But the boys haven't figured that out yet in the episode. I did, though. Then Sam finds a book or journal that has the same cross in it and the death tarot card, as well as newspaper clippings about the guy who is outside saying Roy is a fraud to everybody.
Mhm.
Sam is saying Roy is choosing victims who he deems immoral.
Makes sense so far. Also, just want to throw it out there too, like the whole like doom over this death tarot card too. In tarot and like in like the mythology or the folklore around it, the death card does not actually mean death. It means just a change.
I was actually just about to say that.
Yeah, like it's like oh, like it makes sense because like that's what you do, especially in horror movies or horror adjacent things. The death tarot card's always like, ooh, spooky death. It's bad death, but it really just means like, hey, something's changing, something's gonna be ending, something's gonna be starting, like
Mhm.
a rebirth kind of thing, more than
Yes.
it means death. Death.
So Roy is inside his tent and he actually finally picks Layla.
Of
And
course,
sadly, Dean has to stop it. But then he remembers they've been waiting for so long.
it's so fucked. It's
It
so
is.
fucked. When this happened in the episode, I was just like, this is so messed up.
It is.
Like Dean got healed, and then now that he's healed, fuck everyone else,
Yes.
and her in particular.
Dean tells her she can't go up there because something bad is going to happen, but he can't explain why, which like now is actually the time to
Yes,
explain, but he's
now's
not.
the time you just say, "Hey, if you go get healed, someone else, random other person's gonna die. I can prove it later. You just gotta trust me on this one."
Yes.
Like just like lay it all out there, let her make the choice.
In front of the whole church, just like, "Get it done." After looking to her mom, she obviously doesn't listen to him.
Yeah, some random strange dude who just got healed, trying to convince you not to after months and months and months.
Yes,
Like, yeah, you're not listening to that.
no. Now we see the guy outside who's saying, like, "This dude's this fraud," or whatever,
Mhm.
running away from the Reaper, and Layla's healing has started. Sam is trying to help the guy outside, but of course he can't see the Reaper.
Yep.
Now Dean is screaming, "The tent is on fire and everybody needs to get out." Which
Yeah.
does stop everything, but it didn't fully work. The Reaper still got that guy, and this is when we find out that it's not Roy who's doing this, it is his wife.
Yep.
Dean distracts her, which stops the Reaper, but 2 cops pull Dean out of the tent.
Yeah. He just shouted fire in a crowded movie theater, which is illegal.
Yes. Now Dean has to say goodbye to the pretty girl, but he says she deserves more good luck than him, and they now overhear, Roy saying they'll be doing, like, a private session just for Layla later tonight. Now the brothers are thinking Roy has no idea this is happening, and the
Yep.
wife is using a binding spell to hold the Reaper, which I want to put in, like, a side in here, which I see you're kind of gonna talk about this, but what I'm gonna say is
Mhm.
different. If you look into demonolatry, not demonology,
Mhm.
demonolatry, you will find binding spells for demons if you want to ask them for help. However, because that was there's a whole history about, like, Aleister Crowley and blah, 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 and these people who did that to demons, like, did the binding. In today's world, you don't bind the demons, because if you bind them and force them to be there out of their will, what happens at the end of this episode is what will happen if you
Yeah.
believe in that stuff.
Yeah. And also just in general with like the show proves that you because they do this a lot later of binding demons to circles. Like they
Yes.
do that a lot and they never are happy about it.
No.
Um
They always put them in a circle, and then they're like, "If I can get out of here, I'm gonna kill you."
Yeah, and binding spells in general, like, kinda going off of what you were talking about, they are a very common thing, especially in Christian belief systems, mostly when it comes to, again, demons, demonolatry, stuff like that, especially from, like, Solomon and his sigils. He did had a lot of, basically symbols that were used in order to that were specified to certain demons in order to conjure them and then trap them, so you could get them to do what you wanted, basically,
Mhm.
which is, again, something to do very much going forward in the series. And then other forms of like types of magic around binding spells, they tend to be used kind of for a similar thing, but more to like bind a person to something, generally negative, in sense of like a curse or like some kind of like putting negative energy on someone. You bind them to something negative, right? Or you can do it as the kind of a variation of like a love spell where you bind two people together by that stuff. So it's like the binding magic is a very common thing in folklore. It's just one of those things where I've never heard anyone doing it to literal death or to a literal reaper or like things like that. Cause like, how did she figure that out? How does she
Yeah.
have control over one of the most powerful beings in the world? Some random ass person with a cross. That's it. Like,
Because,
what?
like, she could have, like, summoned it to her, but that doesn't mean it has to do what she's asking.
Yeah, they must have more of a spell than just a binding spell then.
Mhm.
'Cause yeah.
And, like
But either way, it's just like one of those things where I've never heard about it on death. Only heard about it on, like, other kinds of spirits
mhm,
or
same.
people.
And, like, kinda the last thing I wanna say about it, as you brought up, like, Solomon and, like, the sigils, those sigils to, like, summon demons are still used, but the difference is the circle around them, because the circle is what's binding. So, like, people would draw out the sigils and then put a circle around it. And nowadays, if you're trying to summon a demon, you just put their sigil. And if they want to come to you, they can, and they're not bound to you. So that's kind of like real world spell binding stuff. Sam says what she did is evil. Dean says it was out of desperation to save her husband.
Initially.
Initially, yes. And then Sam says she was literally cheating death. And I'm like, okay, Sam, look in the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. He literally just used Roy to do the same thing for
Yes.
Dean. But he doesn't think it goes back to this is like them being human, right? And being flawed characters, which I really do like about this show is that they do have flaws that are pretty
Hmm.
apparent. That's what it is too. It's bad when they do it for them or for other people because like that's not how it should be.
Hmm.
But he still was willing to do it for Dean because it's Dean, it's his brother, like all these things. It's like one of those things where, yeah, you gotta be able to take a step fully back and be like,
Hmm.
this in general probably isn't right.
Yes, exactly. But either way, it's still a great question of if Roy is alive, why is she still doing it?
Yeah,
So they need to break the binding spell, and it's very much implied she is going after Dean next,
makes sense.
because she says she can, like, unheal him, basically. And Roy is about to heal Layla now. They're back at the tent. Layla's already there, which makes
Mhm.
Dean feel So much worse. Sam says you can't play God, but funnily enough, God is just playing himself.
Yeah, God knows what's happening. Again, mysterious ways, etc. Like he has to do the most convoluted nonsense to get his points across.
Yes. Like, I think they have the point. I think they
No,
got it.
I don't think they got it yet.
So Roy's wife is not in a tent. They assume she's in the house.
Uh-huh.
Dean distracts the cops so Sam can go inside to stop her. Weirdly enough, Sam can't find a way into the house this time. But it was
Hmm.
really easy earlier.
Yeah, because that's when you're looking for clues. Now, when it's like actually like time to stop the thing, you got to have more problems. That's good storytelling.
Okay, but actually, wait, because he can't get into the house through the door or the windows. He decides to go in the cellar where the altar space is set up.
Convenient.
Yes. So it actually was convenient. With the photo, it on the altar space was a photo of Dean with an X on it over his face.
I wonder what that implies.
Sam knocks over the table, but I personally don't think that stops a spell. The
I mean,
lady,
certainly harms it. It like disrupts it a little. I'm sure.
yeah, true. This lady thinks the Lord gave her this power to stop wicked people, and she says Dean is wicked, and then she locks Sam in the cellar.
Yeah. It's, one of those things where, it again, in retrospect, looking at the grand scheme of things, this all being like a thing that Chuck was intentionally setting up, technically not wrong. The Lord did give her power to do this,
Yes, he
to
did.
make a point to the boys.
But now Dean is starting to get the signs that the Reaper's coming for him.
Start to see the guy appearing and walking towards him.
As Dean is dying, Sam breaks out and finds the wife's cross and breaks it, which does break the spell.
Mhm.
But now the Reaper, he has a little smirk and then he goes after her.
Yeah.
And this is why you don't bind demons, reapers, etc. If you want their help, just ask for it.
Well, like, just in general, if you want someone's help, like anyone, like if I want your help with something, what
Yeah.
would make you help me more? Me asking you for help or me locking you in my basement and being like, you're going to help me whenever I need your help? Like, one of those is very going to make it where the second you get an opportunity, you're going to kill me, you
Yes.
know? So
Exactly.
it's just like, use your brain a little here. Come on. You're dealing with the force of death and you're like, I can control it forever. What kind of hubris nonsense?
hmm And if it's not like the Grim Reaper and it's just a Reaper, so a minion of the Reaper, like the Reaper, don't you think the Reaper would be also be mad and be like,
Yeah.
"You don't do this to me?"
Mhm. One thing that I did find amusing a little bit too, like you said, like, I'm not sure if that would break the spell, like, knocking over all the components of it, whatever. This goes back to the same trope that the supernatural universe uses a lot, and, like, it does work in regular folklore too, of, like, spirits and, like, beings being tied to items or, like, specific things. So, like, that's kinda, like, what I found amusing though, that it's like, okay, so this cross is, like, essentially the vessel for this that's tying to this. Right,
Mhm.
and it's just like that's what every episode so far has been, like, a thing is tying the spirit to the thing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even think of that. Roy's wife dies very quickly.
Mhm.
Dean says it's been a hell of a week, so this implies the episode took a week. Now Dean is contemplating whether or not they did the right thing because it stopped
Yep,
Layla's thing. Like she says
he didn't
Roy
get healed.
touched her and nothing happened. And then she says his wife had a stroke and died. But I do have a question
Mhm.
because since it was like already happening in the works, why didn't Layla just get healed when the wife died?
My guess was because before it was literally the Reaper killing the one person, giving the other person like, healing the other person. I assume it was the Reaper doing both,
Hmm.
and in this case, the Reaper probably didn't care about Layla
Oh, true.
because like, it's shown later on that the Reapers are very, like, business, right? They don't really have emotions or care about people really, except for, like, specifically Sam and Dean, later on. And
Hmm.
even then, not really. They kinda really don't like them and how much they've been breaking the rules of law life and death, right? So,
Hmm.
like, in their mind, it's like, "You're interfering with our work, so, like, why would they help here?"
Yeah.
So that was my interpretation of it, like, because the Reaper's finally free, he's just like, "Okay, I'm gonna get my revenge on you because fuck you," and then was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go do my job now. Bye."
Dean says it's rough believing in something so much and having it disappoint you. And Layla says, if you're going to have faith, you can't only have it when miracles happen. You have to have it when they don't.
I mean, that's how faith works, I guess.
Yeah. Then she repeats that God works in mysterious ways.
Okay, Chuck, calm down. This character is literally only here to be like a mouthpiece for God at this point.
Yes.
That's what I've got. Like as we looked at this last, looking through that lens when I
Yeah.
rewatched it, that was all. Every time she spoke, I was like, "This is literally just Chuck being like, I'm going to exposit through her."
And he knew Dean would need a pretty girl
Yeah,
to tell him.
that's what I mean. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Dean tells her he's not the praying type, but he's going to pray for her. And
Uh
there
huh.
was and then this is where the episode ends. But there's actually an alternative ending that was actually filmed of them kissing before she leaves. The actress, I listened to an interview with her and she said they actually did film it and she doesn't know why it didn't make the cut, but it didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Also with her saying, or with him saying, like, "I'm gonna pray for her," like, she, like, kinda smiles at him and says, like, "That, like, seems to be like a miracle," or something like that.
Mhm.
Like, she makes a quip about that too, which I found
Oh,
amusing.
yeah, she does. She does say, like, "That's a miracle already," or something like that. Mm.
Yeah. And then also with the kiss and stuff too, like, I don't know if it really is necessary because also, like, they just met and, like, they're complete strangers, like, would she actually want to kiss him there? I was thinking that too. I was like, "I bet they kiss at the end of this," because, like, it seemed like it was setting that up and then it just didn't
Mhm.
happen. I was just like, "Oh, that's funny that they actually filmed it."
Alright, let's move on to our crime counter, just to have this documented with us. In the US, in general, it is not illegal to own and use a stun gun as
Mhm,
they are widely not considered to be a deadly weapon.
mhm.
However, you can be charged with assault. Our brothers didn't do that this episode, so I'm not counting it as a crime. The cops didn't care at
Yeah.
all. So, but they did do breaking and entering, which is 12 months, lying to the cops, 180 days.
Mhm.
And then our new one is health insurance fraud, and that is 10 years in prison.
Jeez. 10 years, like, like, this is, like, just, like, doing this crime counter thing, kinda bringing to light, like, the disparity in our justice system here. Like, some of these crimes are so much worse than others, and they're just so much less like, they're just, like, health insurance fraud for 10 years is
Mhm.
crazy.
But, like, also remember, I'm keeping it, like, general because we also
Yeah.
know in our justice system, things really, like, vary.
Yes, but I'm just saying, like, as a general, like, baseline, 10 years for health insurance fraud, I feel like is just high.
It
Like,
is.
10 years is a long time.
Alright. But now for our episode review, we rated it basically almost the same. So for story and pacing, we both gave it a 5. Great plot. It was engaging and fairly well structured, in my opinion. They didn't race
Yeah.
to the end
This one
like
actually
normal.
felt much more consistent, I thought.
Mhm.
That's why I gave it a 5 compared to a lot of my other ones where I'm just like, "Oh, it was really good," and then the ending just kinda happened, and it was over, and it was done.
Mhm.
This one felt like there was a lot more stakes and a lot more, like, back and forth until, like, hey, they finally triumphed. Like, it actually felt like a struggle, which is, like, I like. So that's why I was like, I give it a 5 out of 5, you know?
Yeah, if we didn't know that there was going to be 14 more seasons, like, if we were back in 2006, we may have actually thought Dean was going to die.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Monster lore, we both gave it a 4.
Yeah. I think, this one getting a 4 is really good because of, I gave it a 4 because most of the things are very consistent. The one thing I knocked it for was the Reaper thing being a little weird that they could find a Reaper and then, like,
Mhm.
you know, whatever. But I think they did a great job in the episode of actually explaining a lot of the lore, and I gave them extra bonus points for me, for the raw head at the beginning because they did like, again, like, I love that even with those, they do their research, man.
Mhm. Yeah, I originally had it at a 3 because, like, we don't really get lore about the Reaver at
Yeah.
all, and then I brought it up to a 4 after, like, the Rawhead stuff.
Yeah, and, like, I think it was really cool 'cause, like, they're just setting up, like, again, looking at it through the lens of, like, the full series and
Mhm.
knowing this is all God's plan, it makes the episode much more enjoyable in that way
Yes,
too.
it does. For character development, we both gave it a 4. I feel like we do like, at least we learn about them that they're going to always save each other.
Yeah, that's why I gave it a 4 too, because like, their characters are developing a lot. Do we learn a whole lot of new things? Not really, but the things that they are setting up are things that were very strong character points and throughout the rest of the series, and, we are developing them as characters, like, completely. Like, we're learning of different aspects, making them think about hard philosophical questions, etcetera, like, we're making the characters grow,
Mhm.
so that's the point.
Exactly. For visuals and direction, we both gave it a 4. Um, yeah, there was really good cinematography, and like I mentioned, like, the tension at the beginning.
Mhm. The
Yeah.
atmosphere just felt kinda dreary, like, the whole time. So even, like,
Mhm.
the way that it was shot, like, I don't know if it was a lens, like, a filter on it or not, but it was just, like, it felt very gray. Like, the whole episode kinda
Uh,
gray and, like, that weird, like, bleak,
it may
um
have. That was popular in, like, the 2000s, like, a gray blue hue over
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah,
Emotional impact, we both gave it a 4.
yeah.
Mostly because we don't want our brothers to die, and John is still not around,
And
and
also just the stuff with Layla too, it's just, like,
yes,
it's heavy. This episode is heavy
it is.
with emotion, and I like it.
Yes, we talked, about, like, heavy stuff throughout our commentary as well, like, it
Mhm.
is a heavy episode. Rewatchability, we both gave it a 5. I personally think anybody can watch this episode without knowing a lot
Yeah,
about the show overall, and it's going to be entertaining.
yeah, and this is a very good one. I like this one a lot.
Mhm. If I were making a list of episodes to rewatch, and if I was, like, skipping around, I would definitely watch this one.
Yeah, this one's on the list for sure.
Salt and Sass, I gave it a 4. This is where we differ. You wanna say what you gave it?
Yeah, I gave it a 3. I just, for me, it's like there was some good lines, but it
Mhm.
was very this one was a lot more of a serious episode.
Yeah.
So, like, because of that, a lot of the Salt and Sass didn't land or was, like, somber, like, it wasn't like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is hilarious." It was just like, "Oh, dang, he's talking about, like, him dying and haunting his dad." Like, that's a great
Yeah.
line, but it's, like, sad, you know? So, like, it wasn't, like, enough, like, bantery that I was like, "This is great," for me.
Yeah.
So I just stopped at a point.
I liked those
Mhm.
lines, like, the "Take care of my car, I'll haunt your ass," and, like, the "in their wallets," and, like,
Yeah.
just those little quippy things that Dean does.
Yeah, and they were great. That's why I gave it a 3. Pretty
Mhm.
on average, pretty good.
Yeah, so my average score was a 4.29 out of 5.
And mine was 4.14 out of 5, meaning our combined score was 4.21 out of 5, which is, like, still one of our higher rated episodes.
Yes.
Like, this one was very good
Yeah,
compared to a lot of other ones.
the back half of this season has been pretty good so far.
Yep, good. So far, so good. We'll see how it keeps going, right?
Mhm.
Alrighty then. Well, that brings us to the episode 1, season 1, episode 12. That is Faith. Thank you for joining us this week in this bleak ass tent, where we survived a Reaper barely. Next week, we're headed out to Route 666 to stop some love magic. So whenever you're ready, see you in the archive. Bye.
Bye.